All right, let's take a trip back in time. We're heading to the summer of 1912 in Brooklyn, New York. And we're going to see this world through the eyes of a little girl named Francie Nolan, who watches everything unfold from the front stoop of her family's tenement flat. It's a world filled with these tiny joys, quiet heartaches, and a truly incredible imagination.
You know, this quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? She's not talking about the actual ocean. She's talking about seeing a full bathtub for the very first time. For a kid who has so little, something that simple can feel absolutely vast and full of wonder. And that sense of awe, even when surrounded by poverty, is really at the heart of her story. So, for the Nolan family, this move is a really big deal. It's this fragile new beginning. Their new apartment on Lorimer Street, it might not seem like much to us, but for them, it's a small but really important step up in the world. And for a little while, there's this feeling of stability and hope. I mean, think about what this list tells you about their old life. A more refined street, working as janitors just to cover the rent, and having a window in every single room. To them, that was pure luxury. It meant light, it meant fresh air, and for a little while, it meant warmth. Her dad, Johnny, had a steady job, so they even had enough money for coal. It was this rare, precious pocket of peace in a really tough life. You know, the central image, the thing you really remember from this chapter, is Francie on her stoop. While her younger brother Neely is, scrambling all over the place, Francie just sits. She watches, she thinks, and she becomes this incredibly sharp observer of the world buzzing around her. And this isn't just a kid spacing out, This is the mind of a writer and a thinker just starting to take shape. She's sitting there grappling with these huge fundamental questions about the universe, all from her little perch on Lorimer Street. But here's the flip side to all that thinking. It comes at a cost. Francie is lonely. See, her mother, Katie, reads to her and Neely every single night from the classics and the Bible. And this fills Francie's head with all these beautiful, complicated words that, tragically, just make her sound strange to the other kids on the block. And this just captures the whole problem perfectly. Imagine you're 5 years old and you say this to another kid. Francie isn't trying to be fancy. She's just using the word she knows. Begat, right out of the Bible. To her, it's a totally normal word for get. But to the other kids, it's just weird. And this is the reply she gets. It's so cruel. The other little girl taps her on the forehead, basically calling her crazy. It's just this moment of sharp, painful rejection that really ends up defining a lot of Francie's childhood. And that's the real kicker, the heartbreaking irony of it all. The very thing that gives her such a rich inner life, the thing that expands her mind, it also builds this invisible wall between her and the friends she so desperately wants. So what do? You're a lonely kid with this powerhouse imagination. Well, you turn inward. If you can't connect with the real kids on the sidewalk, you create a world of your own. It's such a classic defense mechanism, right? On the outside, she pretends she doesn't even care. Oh, my imaginary friends are way better anyway. But you know that deep down, her heart is just aching to be invited into that circle of girls playing their singing games just a few feet away. I love this part because it shows you just how ingenious these kids were. This is how you made your own toys. A potsy was what they called the little marker you use for hopscotch. So Francie doesn't just play, she creates. She puts a tin can on the trolley tracks, listens for that scrunch, and even wonders if the motorman knows he's making a toy just for her. It's a real testament to her resourcefulness. But even then, even when she's playing this game she made all by herself, that loneliness is right there under the surface. She plays with everything she's got, convincing herself she's the best player in the world. But it's a hollow victory when there's no one there to see it. Okay, so her world wasn't all silence and imaginary friends. The streets themselves had their own soundtrack. It was this sidewalk symphony of performers, all just trying to earn a few pennies. And for Francie, this was pure magic that she could enjoy all by herself. You basically had two main acts. First, there were the Bubbers, this loud German-style band that got all the kids waltzing right there on the pavement. And then there was the quieter magic of the organ grinder and his little monkey in its tiny red uniform. Francie absolutely adored that monkey. And this is where it gets really interesting. Francie is watching this whole little economy play out right in front of her. There were rules. If a woman wrapped a penny in newspaper before tossing it, that meant it was protected. It belonged to the musicians.
But any loose pennies, well, that was fair game for any of the street kids fast enough to grab them. It was a whole system with its own unspoken laws. And of course, all this music gets her dreaming. She cooks up this whole future for herself and her brother. They're not going to be poor forever. Nope. They're going to become street performers, make their own music, and earn enough money so their mom won't have to scrub floors anymore. It's just this simple, beautiful childhood dream. And then, her mom brings her crashing right back down to earth. Francie excitedly shares her grand plan to get a monkey for their act, and her very practical mother, Katie, shuts the whole thing down with just 3 words: monkeys have fleas. It's such a funny, perfect moment that just captures that clash between a kid's fantasy and a parent's reality. So as we get towards the end of this chapter, you start to feel all these different threads. The loneliness, the music, the poverty, they all start weaving together into this one single feeling, a feeling that the book calls a beautiful sadness. I mean, just listen to the words from one of the singing games the other girls are playing. It starts out all sweet, Walter, Walter Wildflower, and then it just casually swerves into sickness and death. Doctor, doctor, shall I die? Yes, my darling, by and by. For these kids, mortality wasn't some abstract idea. It was literally part of their games. And Francie, she feels this melancholy in everything. It's not just in the lyrics of a game. She sees it in the monkey's eyes. She hears it even in the cheerful tunes the organ grinder plays. She feels it in the very air on those long summer evenings. And that brings us to this line, which is just, wow, it's pure poetry, and it captures that feeling perfectly. That sense of being a little bit adrift, of a light that shines but doesn't actually warm you. That feeling of being small and lost in this huge, indifferent city. It is the beautiful, aching sadness of Francie Nolan's Brooklyn. And in the end, Francie's story is just one story, one that we know about because it was written down. It kind of makes you wonder, right? As you go about your day and hear the sounds of your own city, the traffic, the music, the chatter, what other stories are unfolding all around you? And how many of them are just getting lost in the noise?